The National Republican Party is a donor harvesting organization that's there to maximize the amount of consulting kickbacks, and they have absolutely no centralized strategy to win. They just do not.
Let's bring in our pal and our friend, Professor Nicholas Giordano's host of the PAS Report. Sir, how are you doing tonight?
I might need one of those pillows because I don't know if I'm going to get a good night's sleep after what I'm witnessing so far. Certainly not a good night for Republicans. Some of it was predictable, some surprises. I mean, the Dems, who would have thought that they would go out and vote in droves for a person that advocated the killing of their political opponent and their children as well? You know, you look at the dynamics. I think I'm disappointed with Chitterelli. I thought that he might have had a slim shot to win the governor's race there. I thought that was our best chance. I'm not surprised with Abigail Spanberger winning. Winsome Sears has been down. Rasmussen has been showing the polls. She's been down quite a bit for a long time. And Virginia has, as government has expanded, as the federal bureaucracy has expanded, the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, notice Virginia has gone blue. The more federal bureaucrats in the Washington, D.C., Virginia, Maryland area, the more blue it becomes. So that wasn't something that was unpredictable. And then New York, I mean, you know, let's face it, New York is the only thing that's shocking is Mamdani had an overwhelming victory. Okay. Everyone was saying that the polls were tightening up. But this is what happens when Republicans surrender areas to Democrats and end up telling their people to vote for a governor who was thoroughly rejected and left the party, the governorship in disgrace, and they backstabbed their own candidate. So it's not surprising to see Mamdani have the victory he does in New York.
Mr. Polster, before we turn it over to you, I just want to go through some of these numbers that we've got in here just to get your reaction on where we're at in these races. With 88% of the vote in New York, Mamdani's up 50.3. We'll call it 50% to 42% on Cuomo, 7% for Curtis Sliwa. In the Virginia's governor's race with 88% of the vote, I mean, a molly-whopping 57% for Spanberger to Winsome Sears is 43%. And then looking over at the New Jersey governor's race, I mean, absolutely getting murdered. 83% of the vote in, 56% to 43%. I hacked into your computer last week when you weren't around, and I saw some polling that you were doing that showed this was going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, it came down to turnout. The number said that my number said Jack was going to lose by 6. But when you
I told you were crazy.
Yeah, right. Then if you look at very likely voters and other pollsters that use very likely screen, it was a much closer race, like Jack down 1. And I don't know where the ball is going to stop. Like, it could tighten up. It could actually wind up being exactly 6. But it's so hard to predict turnout here because basically you can't believe anything anybody says on a poll anymore. And the Democrats are like coming out to own Trump. Like, they are still doing that, in my opinion. And also, it's like there's this idea. I don't think everybody's really come to terms with how much Trump won with crossover Democrats and with independents that just don't feel the need to come out when Republicans are on the ticket. This is the same story with the special elections back in the spring. And they're going to continue to lose until they have good answers, because right now they're just governing like Republicans, and people wanted to change and they're not getting a change. I think this is going to happen over and over again. And it's going to drive the country into the arms of Democrat socialists, because the Democrats are moving left at breakneck speeds. And the right is kind of just like being its same old stupid right. They have to change.
Nick, I want to get your take on this because I've been following the Virginia race really closely, and I've met Winsome Sears and I've spoken with her on this show many times, and she's what I embody is someone who's a country club Republican, someone who's just the good old establishment, doesn't want to rock the boat. Do you think that that's a part of the reason why she performed so poorly in this Virginia race, looking like she's probably going to lose by somewhere in the margin of 7 to 8, maybe 10 points, you know, not embodying what President Trump won Virginia on, which was the America First agenda?
Well, I think that partly explains it to a certain degree, but I think something that a lot of Republicans downplayed and even mocked and made fun of was the No Kings rally from a few weeks ago. And I was actually warning Republicans that, hey, when you have people turning out for a protest, especially one as lame as that, they're going to vote. Okay, they're going to go to the polls and they're going to vote. They're energized. And it's a new dynamic because let's face it, at the No Kings rally, it was mostly old people who are supposed to lean Republican, old people who are supposed to lean conservative. And yet they're voting, they're protesting at this No Kings rally. So it's an eye opener. And I think that Republicans are underestimating. First of all, they always perform poorly when Trump's not on the ticket, when he's not running for office. And they got to figure out, why is there no enthusiasm for Republicans when Trump's not on the ticket? But also, I think it's Republicans have failed. I mean, let's be honest here. They haven't introduced a single bill to dismantle the bureaucracy. They haven't introduced a single bill that takes power away from the FISA court. They haven't introduced a single bill that really introduces fiscal responsibility. All the things Republicans campaign on, they never actually introduced the bills that would accomplish that. And a lot of Republicans get turned off. And independents, too, let's face it. I know a lot of independents that the only issue they care about is fiscal responsibility. Yeah. That's it. And they support Republicans. But when they see Republicans campaign on fiscal responsibility and then the budget expands, that we only spend more money, well, they just say, well, what's the point? I could vote for Democrats or I could just stay home. I'll just stay home. So I think Republicans really need to get back to the core identity of fiscal responsibility, limited government, starting to rein in the bureaucracy, returning power to the people and the states, and let New York City be the test case, because Mamdani is now the face of the Democrat Party. Let's be honest here. You had President Obama, you had Hakeem Jeffries, the House minority, all come to kiss the ring of Mamdani. So now the progressives are emboldened. They believe that they run that party. Let Mamdani be the face of it. Let him implement his agenda, and let's see how voters react to New York City's rapid decline.
Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Republicans got a gift, which was Donald Trump's America First platform. And it was a wake-up call, in my opinion, that they have not heeded. And I agree with you on the idea of like fiscal responsibility and limited government. But when you look at the under 40s, even the ones that voted for Donald Trump, they're not conservative at all. And people like to convince themselves they are. They're actually super socialist. And if they don't see the system burn down, I think that they're going to go into the arms of democratic socialism. If you look at New York, the young people just love this Mamdani guy. And I think the Democrats are shrewd. They know that they can recreate an Obama-type movement by capturing the zeal of young people. And so it's literally going to be socialism on the ballot. And the Republican Party is not going to win if it's like, well, capitalism's the better system. Well, it's like, no, your capitalism kind of screwed over America. Like these people, these young kids can't get jobs and their healthcare is super expensive. And you didn't really help them with that. You shipped their jobs overseas and you haven't really like busted down on the corporations and done antitrust, like the kind of stuff you would expect Republicans. Like, I mean, they have to offer a better economic system than the one that we currently have, and they're not doing it. Like Trump is, but Trump's not going to be on the ticket anymore. And hopefully JD Vance, like he's polling really well. I think he's the only one really that has a shot. Like the idea that they're going to be able to like put Ted Cruz or Ron DeSantis on the ticket and go up against Mamdani, the young people are going to usher this guy in on like in a parade with ticker tape. Like that's where we're at. Everybody wants economic populism, literally, except the Republican donor class.
Yeah,
yeah.
Before I get your reaction, Nick, Mark brought up such a good point. I know so many people, so many young people, college kids who are just out of college, who voted for Trump because they liked what he was selling. They liked the young idea. They liked that he tried to bring everyone to the table. The young, he went to colleges. He went to college football games. You know, he was this boomer who was out there energizing kids, and kids were walking around college campuses with Trump hats. I mean, you had guys in the NFL, guys in college football doing the Trump dance. I don't care what Mark says. I like JD Vance, but JD Vance is not going to. Marco Rubio is not going to. Tulsi, whoever the nominee is not going to be able to fire up people. And to second that, nobody's going to be able to go up on a debate stage and say that they only called Rosie O'Donnell a fat pig and got away with it. So people don't realize the tides that Donald Trump brought in, and a rising tide rises all boats. But when that tide goes out with Donald Trump, the Republican Party is going to lose a hell of a lot of support. Professor, what do you say?
Well, it's because they don't have a plan. I mean, let's face it. I saw this in the
Yeah.
2022 election, right? That was supposed to be a red wave. All the
Yeah.
Republicans were confident about a red wave. And in September of that year, I saw that no Republican was really talking about education. No Republican was going into communities that the Republicans long ignored, saying the Democrats did this to your children, that they destroyed your children. They kept your children socially isolated for 2 years that led to a rampant mental health crisis.
Mhm.
And they never played that card. Why? Because they're dumb. I mean, let's be honest here. The
Yeah.
Republican leadership is just plain and simple. They're stupid. They don't talk about the issues that ordinary Americans care about. Like, where is the outrage that we spend $1.4 trillion a year, local, state, federal government spending combined on education, and yet we rank 26th in the world? Standards have been dropped routinely. Students can't read and write at grade level, yet Republicans don't make an issue out of it. Well, why not? Why don't Republicans make an issue that a whole bunch of college kids were lied to? They were told that if they go to college and get this piece of paper, that they're going to have a great career. We created this myth that the only pathway to success in life is through a college education. And students took out all these loans, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now they're working as a store clerk somewhere. So instead of taking the fight to the university saying you need to do away with useless degree programs like gender studies or Caribbean studies, they just remain silent on it. When you look at home ownership, and this is the first generation that I'm aware of
Yeah.
that believes that their lives are going to be worse off than the previous generation. That's not the way it's
Bingo.
supposed to be in America. And when you have the cost of housing, the average house at 400, 450, $500,000, that seems
Lucky.
unattainable, especially when you made them take out $150,000 in student loans that they still can't afford to pay back. So Republicans need to get into those issues, but they don't.
Yeah.
Instead, you hear, like Mark said, you hear the same old tired talking points
Yeah.
of the Republicans rather than speak to the issues that people actually care about. And let's be honest, it's not just young people, right? It's people in their 40s and 50s that are also struggling, that also
Yeah.
have a difficult time in how expensive things have gotten. I mean, I was talking to my wife the other day, and I was saying, Trump really needs to bring down those food prices because every week we feel it when we go to the grocery store and we make a good living. It's not like we're paupers out there, but we feel the crunch. And until you inject that economic optimism, until you show young voters, middle-aged voters that there is hope, that America's days are brighter, that they're not going to vote for you. And I think without Trump on the ticket, it really is going to create problems for Republicans if they don't get to their act together. And I will
Yeah.
give either of you $10. We'll make it easy.
100.
Who could remember Kevin McCarthy's plan for America when he announced it in 2022? What was it called?
I wasn't paying attention.
Exactly. Right? Like we could still refer back to Newt
Yeah, nobody believed
Gingrich's.
it would have happened
Yeah,
anyways. I
'cause we
mean,
knew
Well, I'm
we
just saying we could still refer back to the contract with America that Newt
Yeah.
Gingrich put
Yeah.
forward. It was memorable. It had
Yeah.
actionable items. It had items that people cared about, and that's why Gingrich was successful. I don't remember
Yeah,
a
nobody
single thing
believes in
from McCarthy's
Republicans.
plan.
There's no goodwill there. They
Yeah.
literally look at lying old. There's an age aspect here that I think we're only really starting to come to terms with. And I think there's like a divide at kind of like you said, the 50-year mark, where it's like people who spend all day online versus people who don't, who still listen to Fox News. And they're going to increasingly disagree on the future of the country. We're seeing it play out in real time on Israel right now. And yeah, the Republicans are definitely stuck in this sort of like old aspect. And they were the ones that caused this problem. Like, I'm an honest pollster, so I'm doing a hell of a lot worse than you. And like groceries are really bad. But here's the thing, like we both know that they can't really reduce prices. Like maybe they can nibble at like the meat price, maybe they can do this, maybe they can do that. The one way that they could fix this really, really, really rapidly is to fix the wage issue, to make the job market overheat.
Yeah.
Because I'm old enough to remember when Obama said that coal miners should learn to code. And I think that if we got rid of 2.6 million foreign nationals who are here on visas, who are taking all of our engineering jobs, that our biggest national project could be teaching 2.6 million people in the Gen Z to code so they could afford houses. And yes, the wages will go up. Yes, that's bad for business. Yes, the cost of labor increases. And yes, those are all the Republican donors. but I haven't heard a single person even hint at that direction, except for JD Vance.
But at
And
the same
me and
time, we're
John,
also good to see that civil war emerge in the Democrat Party. I mean, I have little doubt that you have Congresswoman AOC is really going to challenge Senator Schumer for his seat, and she will win that primary. And I think that as screwed up as the Republicans are, Democrats are even more screwed up. And unfortunately, that's like the only saving grace by default.
Yeah,
the only problem is people feel good voting for Democrats. That's the only problem.
Well, they felt good voting for Trump. The only problem with the AOC thing, a lot of people don't realize, yeah, that's fine. You'll trade out AOC for Schumer, but they're one of 100, and in Congress, in the House, they're one of 435. They really can't do much on their own. And with this filibuster, it's really a nonsense job. The things you have to.
Well, my point was that you're seeing the progressive wing has taken over the Democratic
100%.
Party. It's now the Democratic Socialist Party of America.
100%. I wouldn't even say America. I'd say Uganda. But what's happening is what people don't realize. Before we go into that, how about we look at something a little bit more granular? How about cleaning up the streets and the drugs? That's something that everyone could resonate with. Not having to walk down the street and walk past a homeless guy who smells like piss. Not having to walk down the street and watch a guy shoot up Trank or watch a guy overdose on the side of the street. We could start with that.
But New York City just voted to have that happen, right?
Yes. Yeah. So this is what people are going to get now. But going back to what you said about AOC in the Senate, what people don't realize is it's more of a granular level issue that the New York State Assembly, the New York City Council has more power in the state and city of New York than does AOC as a senator, or one of two senators in New York. And that's the thing that people don't realize. And that's the thing that these politicians don't realize. They want to skip the steps. They want to overlook the city council, let those people stay there for their 8-year terms. The state assembly, I don't even think there is any, there may be a term limit in the state assembly. It's the other one in New York where there's no term limits. And these people sit there for 100 years. Why are they not looking? Why is the Republican Party not looking to take over state legislators where it really matters? Tonight we saw the Pennsylvania.
Because the party bosses want to keep their positions. They don't care about winning or losing elections.
I understand, but this is something that should be a top-down decision from President Trump. President Trump should have delegates, or JD Vance.
That's not how he works. That's not how it works, John.
That's what has to be done in order to save these states. We just watched the Pennsylvania Supreme Court now overwhelmingly be reelected Democrat in Pennsylvania tonight. So what does that mean, Mark? That means in 2028, when there's a problem with a damn ballot, it goes to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and they tell them you don't have standing. That's the big picture that people aren't understanding, that a big picture boils down to the small picture. And the small picture is we've got to start looking at these city councils and these state legislators if we want to make a change, Mark. If you want to do a ratification in this country, it's not going to take Congress to do that. It's going to take the governors of these states.
John, who did everybody pin their hopes on in New Jersey? Everybody was pinning their hopes on one person, Scott Pressler, some guy with a 501c3. And so that's how low the Republican Party is. They're literally not doing their job so bad that they're hoping other people show up to do their job for them. The precinct strategy. The National Republican Party is a donor harvesting organization that's there to maximize the amount of consulting kickbacks, and they have absolutely no centralized strategy to win. They just do not. Because if they did, they'd be coming to me for polling. Not a single freaking one of them has. I have like 2 senators' offices that have reached out to me ever. Like that's literally it. And we poll more on these issues about the right than literally anybody out there. They do not want to win. They don't give a crap. They will profit just as much in a down market as in an up market. And so it's like, yeah, messy fourth turning. We're in for like a freaking civil war or like a NATO meat grinder. I don't know what to tell you. But
and it's also the state and local GOPs, right? Because, I mean, President Trump, as president of the United States, can't manage all the local GOPs and the statewide GOPs. And let's be honest, when the GOPs say, well, don't support the Republican candidate that's on the ballot, instead support the disgraced ex-governor. Well, why are Republicans even going to turn out to vote if that's their leadership? And, you know, there are some, like the Whitestone Republican Club, they get people engaged. Queens Village gets people engaged. Those parties emerge outside of the GOP itself, because the GOP, when they hold their meetings, the party bosses are the ones that do the speaking. They don't talk about anything interesting. They don't invite speakers. They don't go out into the communities and say, oh, we got new residents here. Let's introduce ourselves. Let's try and win them over. And so the GOP apparatus has been a complete and utter failure because they don't know how to relate to the ordinary person. And as long as, like Mark said, you got the consulting class, they get the wheels greased, they're happy. They make just as much money and they have just as much power losing as they do winning. In fact, winning will bring more scrutiny upon them. So when they're losing, nobody's paying attention.
So does this mean, Mark, we're supposed to just sit back and let business be business and let this thing go? I mean, it's like we're just watching years go by and years go by with nothing changing. I mean, President Trump is going to depart in 3 years and, we'll never be in the president's office again, and it'll be the next person. And we're supposed to just allow these city councils, these governor races to just go by the wayside. I mean, we lost Kentucky, which is as red as a state as you could possibly get. You got a Democrat governor down there at Andy Beshear. I mean, are you supposed to just allow these to just keep going away?
No,
What's your fix?
I think we're headed to like a post-political world. I don't know what to tell you. Like I measured a bunch of ways in which the temperature is increasing in America. A lot of fear, political violence, like 90% of people are concerned. And so like right now, there's three obvious ways this plays out. One is that like NATO or China drags us into total global war. And I'm not trying to be a doomer. Like these are
You're
things
a ball of sunshine tonight.
No,
this is Mark every day.
NATO, the NATO head is like, we need to be prepared to fight a two-front war with China and Russia. And right now we're fighting a proxy war with both of those people right now. We're literally doing kinetic operations against Venezuela, who's backed by China through the Silk Road Initiative. So that's on the table. And that's usually what happens when the debt to government, total government debt to GDP ratio goes above 100%. It's like the escape hatch that the elites use, throw some kids into the wood chipper and maybe we'll skate by. So then there's that. There's now the Democrats are emboldened and Trump is still going to roll National Guard troops down, the avenue in Chicago to try and defend ICE. And are they going to, get a little bit of that Fort Sumter feeling? I think that's a real possibility. I don't know what that looks like. And then it's like, okay, well, if you look at what's happening online and how upset the youth are, you're basically talking about like a communist party versus the National Socialist Party shooting it out. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Those are the three most obvious options.
Well,
so
we're blaming a lot on the politicians, the political class, the elites. At what point do we say the voters get the government they deserve? I mean, let's be honest here. The one thing that I'll say about Mamdani, the one area where I'll give him credit is he was very honest with the people about what he wanted to do. He didn't hide his socialism. He wore it as a badge of honor. And yet you had millions of people, 2 million people, I think, come out and vote. So voter turnout increased from 23% to about 45% probably. But think about that. 55% of New Yorkers, a voting age population, didn't turn out to vote still. And voter turnout is pathetic at local elections. It's pathetic even in statewide elections and federal elections. So at what point do we have to blame ourselves? Not us particularly, but voters blame themselves. Americans blame themselves because they're the ones that have allowed it to get this bad. And like I said, people are upset that Mamdani is now the mayor of New York. I'm not upset. The voters spoke. Let New York City get the government they deserve. And for all those people that complain about Mamdani, did you volunteer for Curtis Lewa's campaign or Andrew Cuomo's campaign? Did you make phone calls? Did you knock on doors? And if you didn't do those things, then don't complain to me.
No, you know what everyone tried to do, Nick? They tried to Monday morning quarterback after the cards were already dealt out and everyone had their chips in the middle of the table.